This right here, this is one of the worst feelings in woodworking. You're basically done with a project, you think everything's looking good, and then when the light hits it just right, you realize you've sanded through a veneer. And the frustrating part is how little it takes. Modern plywood veneer is thin, like really thin, which means sanding plywood feels a little less like woodworking and a lot more like trying to not screw things up. So today, I want to walk through how I sand plywood without ruining it, because I've definitely ruined enough already. I'm building a simple sofa table for the house, and since the whole thing is made of plywood, it felt like a good project for this topic. Because honestly, plywood stressed me out for a long time. Solid wood is forgiving, plywood is not. Sometimes one bad sanding pass and the project's done. Most sanding problems come down to three things: sanding too coarse, too much pressure, and moving too fast. I almost never sand plywood with 80 grit anymore. Most of the time I start with 180. That's aggressive enough to smooth things out, but not so aggressive that one mistake will destroy the veneer. This is probably the simplest sanding trick I know. You take a pencil and you lightly scribble across the surface. The goal here isn't sanding faster, it's sanding evenly. If you still see pencil marks, you're either still missing spots or your panel's not flat. It's best when using a random orbit sander to use a dust extractor or a shop vac. The dust extractor pulls the sawdust up off the wood. Otherwise, you're just gonna sand the sawdust back into the wood, and it actually leaves more pigtails and a poor finish. I bet you thought I was gonna make that cut. Don't do that. Safety first. The biggest thing that has improved my plywood sanding is learning to back off. You don't really need to force your sander into the wood. Random orbit sanders work better if you let the tool do the work. You just rest your hand on it and let the sander float across the wood. The second I start pushing too hard, especially near the edges, bad things usually happen. Edges are where plywood gets dangerous. That veneer likes to chip, peel, and disappear, especially when your confidence gets high. So around the edges, I take it nice and easy, usually with hand sanding or my random orbit sander on low. Light pressure, nothing aggressive. most projects, my sanding sequence is pretty simple. I start with 180 and then move to 220. 220 is just mainly for appearances and feel. And then if you stick around, I'll show you my final technique that leaves your plywood silky smooth for finish. One mistake I made early on was thinking smoother is always better. But with plywood, once you pass 220, you're really not doing anything good but taking risks. But if you jump grits too aggressively or over sand plywood, you can actually make finishing even harder. It leaves something called pigtails. The more pigtails you have, the worse your finish will look. All right, this is the trick I wish someone taught me years ago. Lightly wetting plywood raises the grain before finish does. So instead of your finish making the surface feel rough later, you deal with it now. Once it dries, I do one super light sanding with 220 grit, and it completely changes the feel, especially on plywood. Most woodworking mistakes happen because we rush. But plywood makes you pay for it. You always hear me talking about patience in woodworking. But once you learn patience with this stuff, everything starts looking better. Anyway, I hope this saves you from ruining a $185 sheet of walnut plywood. Stick around if you want to see another fun, simple build. I think it's right there, or maybe there. I don't know, there. Wherever. It should pop up on the screen here. Check it out. Thanks for watching. I knew that was gonna happen. It's best when you use a random or, I'm literally gonna bust my ass, dude.